And good afternoon. My name is Ryan Bellamore. It is August 29th. I'm the publisher of WhatsUpNewp, and Mr. Frank Prosnitz joins me. Hey, Frank.
Good morning, afternoon.
Afternoon. You are on the radio in the morning, and your go-to is good morning.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, there it is.
Well, today we have, normally my favorite guest to talk about elections and voting, but today we're going to talk about with her voting for her and why you should vote for her. But obviously that is Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea.
Yeah, which is a lot like elections and voting.
It is. But normally we're talking about dates and how to register and things like that. So, we have Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea, who is a gubernatorial candidate, and she joins us. I just want to preface, if you miss any portion of this interview, you can find it on WhatsUpNewp.com afterwards. You can share with your friends, family, enemies, Rhode Island voters, anybody else you'd like to. So I'm going to let you take it away there, Mr. Prosnitz.
Good afternoon, Nellie. How are you?
Good, very well, Frank. How are you?
I'm fine. Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea, you wear two hats, right? You have to oversee the election and run it at the same time.
You know, it's interesting. No, let me put a pause on that. And hi, Ryan. How are you doing?
Hi.
Because I think it leads to real concerns by uninformed people about, oh my gosh, she's on the ballot, but she's like running the election. The truth of the matter is that while I am designated as chief state election official for federal purposes, if the federal government has monies for elections, they come to my office and then we divvy it up. Okay. I handle the voter registration list and I do prepare the ballot. But once the ballot is prepared and goes to be printed, it is distributed over to the Board of Elections, the State Board of Elections, which is a nonpartisan board that I am not on. And they work with the local boards of canvassers and the clerks in the cities and towns. And so the election is really run by nonpartisan people in all of our cities and towns. And so Rhode Islanders can be very comfortable about the fact that I am on the ballot. Yes, I'm running for governor, but that the day of election, the processes of elections are absolutely nonpartisan. They're monitored by a lot of people. And by the way, they're audited afterwards. Rhode Island has a very robust election system.
And go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, one of my reasons you're my favorite guest over the years talking about the election is how passionate you are about it. And just how we all agree on this call that, it's one of the most important things you could do. So that's why I've enjoyed our conversations over the past couple of years with my vote thing and backgrounds and et cetera.
Background, that's nice background there. Yeah.
That's it. That's from the last time we talked.
Yes.
Well, I did want to do a little housekeeping stuff in terms of voting. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to remind people that early voting has started.
That's correct.
In every community, correct?
In every community. And if you are wondering where you should go, you can go to vote.ri.gov and under the information for, vote early, you can actually view the voting locations and hours in your community. In most municipalities, it's going to be at your city or town hall, but some of them have chosen alternative places. Like in Cranston, they chose the Pastori complex that's right next to the Cranston YMCA. It's not the complex, sorry, the Pastori Recreation Center. But in Newport, which is really where we're focused on right now, it's at City Hall. It's on the ground floor, far left, directly in front of the elevator, and they're going to be there Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. You're able to vote just like if it were September 13th. You show your ID, you're given the ballot, you fill it out, you put it yourself into the machine. So I did it on Wednesday of last week. That was the first day that early voting started, and it was so easy. No lines. It's perfect. Yeah. So I encourage people to vote early, because while you do have from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on primary day, you never know. Something can happen unexpectedly, and then you're left out without voting. So why?
And a reminder also, it's too late to get a mail ballot.
Yes, unless you have a true emergency that you have to swear by, and then you would go to your local board of canvassers. But yes, people should have already applied for mail ballots. They have been sent out. You can track the status of your mail ballot at vote.ri.gov. And then the other information resource that we have for people is if you can't get on the internet and you really need to know where to go, call 211. The United Way 211 line. It has partnered with us, or we have partnered with them to provide them as a voter information hotline. And what's great about them is that they have a variety of languages that they're able to provide the information in. So, you know, I'm looking here. Middletown is in the town hall, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 3:30. So, you know, I mean, you have a number of places, and in Portsmouth, it's in the town hall. So, and it's going to be Monday through Wednesday, 8:30 to 4:30, Thursdays, 8:30 to 6:30, and Friday, 8:30 to 2:30. So if you're in Portsmouth, you want to look exactly at the time in which you can go vote early. If you're in Newport, like most of the people probably following this broadcast, it's really 8:30 to 4:30 on the ground floor of City Hall.
Well, let's get to the election at hand. That being the governor's race. Five candidates, Democratic candidates, vying for the nomination. What is it that motivated you to want to run in the first place?
You know, after 8 amazingly wonderful years making sure that government works for people at the Secretary of State's office, I am excited about doing that kind of work now as the governor of our state. This is a really critical moment. It's a moment where we actually have federal funding and an administration in Washington that's supporting the states in this post-pandemic world. And it's a moment of demographic changes and economic changes. And so I want to bring my leadership skills, which you have all gotten to know through my time as Secretary of State, to make the economy more equitable and just, to double down and focus on Rhode Island businesses, the amazing businesses that we have, like in the marine trades, in renewable energy, so many different ways. And I'm going to do it by focusing first and foremost on housing. I'm going to be the housing governor. I want to make sure that housing is taken care of at every price point in our state, because if you can't find housing, you can't really focus on your education, on your job, or anything else. So housing is foundational. Now, housing is tied very much to education. And I'm going to make sure that we pass a constitutional amendment that makes education a right of every child, a right to a quality education. And then we're going to also focus on climate change, because it's definitely happening. Aquidneck Island is definitely feeling it, just as we are in North Kingstown, where I live, on the coastlines. And we just have to deal with that. And there's an economic opportunity there that I want to make sure Rhode Island seizes and moves forward with.
So your priorities, as I would look at it, are housing, climate change, and education. Would those be the three?
Those three, and as ways to really tackle, you know, making sure that our economy is more equitable and just. And my focus on economic development is local businesses. I think we've got great local businesses in Rhode Island.
How do we improve the climate for those local businesses?
You do it by having a government that works for people, that invests in people. You know, as opposed to our current administration, where you have sort of the shiny object economic development, right? Oh, here's this one project that's going to change, you know, Pawtucket, or one project that's going to change Providence. No, there are no shiny objects. What we need to do is to take our hard-earned tax dollars and invest them in making sure that housing is available throughout our state for people at an affordable price, to make sure that our kids and our adults are well educated, and that we seize, you know, the opportunities that the climate change economy is bringing about. If we do those three things, that really brings about economic businesses wanting to grow and come to Rhode Island.
So I think about affordable housing, and I fully understand that affordable housing is not low-income housing. Affordable housing is providing housing for seniors who basically no longer can afford or live in the homes they have, for young workers coming into a community that need to have affordable housing, and they populate the jobs that are created, those small businesses. But it comes basically not so much to the state government, but the political will in each of our cities and towns to be able to do the things that the state government enables them to do.
That's correct. You're absolutely right. And so this is not just about funding. I mean, I love the fact that we're now seeing more money for the low income affordable housing, for the subsidies. But really, to crack this, we have to make sure that the cities and towns are open to more development of housing. And it'll be a little bit different than what we've seen before. It'll be, more compact. It'll be more dense. Now, the state does have a role to play. And people will ask me, well, are you going to mandate zoning changes? I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start by saying, okay, Newport, I know that you're landlocked and you have a lot going on here. What are the parcels that we have that we could, redeploy for more housing? What are the opportunities that you have? And then what are the barriers? Well, maybe it's infrastructure, because your infrastructure is very old, right? You have a town that got started, 400 years ago. And so maybe we need to put some infrastructure dollars, or maybe it's a concern around education and the sustainability of the influx of kids and families into the schools. Whatever it takes, I should, as governor, be able to help Newport and the communities figure out a win-win, because Newport businesses need workers, and they need workers at all income levels. And what they're finding right now is that people can't afford to live anywhere near, and that's a real problem.
Looking at the housing and looking at the overall economy, I also want to just shift gears just slightly to the economy, and a couple of things I wanted to ask about. One, what's our niche in Rhode Island? Do we have a niche in Rhode Island?
Yes. There are other states out there, which I'm not going to name out of, so I don't want to embarrass them, that would love to have the diversity of economic sectors that we have. We have a marine economy. We've got an amazing hospitality and tourism economy. We've got an amazing renewable energy economy that's just coming up, like with offshore wind and solar. We have manufacturing here still. And so to me, what the governor needs to do, what I will do as governor, is to invest in our existing businesses to help them figure out how to grow. We have a great home building industry. Imagine that. Like, as part of building more homes for Rhode Islanders, which we need, we will hopefully then make it so that part of our economy, the home building economy, is able to then take that experience and skill sets across New England to build other kinds of housing. So I believe very strongly that we have a lot here that we can double down and invest in and grow our state.
I remember a number of years ago, there was talk about building a regional economy. The Economic Policy Council at the time had talked about that, while the then Economic Development Corporation was putting up billboards in Massachusetts trying to attract companies from Massachusetts to Rhode Island, which didn't sound very ecumenical to me. But do we and should we be striving for a regional economy?
I think we definitely take that into account. It being a part of a regional economy, I think, makes sense. Like, so for example, the life sciences, there is some synergy there with the Boston area and stuff, but I don't believe in really spending a lot of our taxpayer dollars on, trying to steal somebody else's business over here. To me, that's not a sound economic development policy. What I want to do is to grow Rhode Island businesses so that they're regional, they're national, they may even be international. We have a diversity of immigrant groups here that have connections that could be exploited as trade connections with their countries of origin. But nobody sees those communities as communities of assets. They see them as communities of need. So we're leaving economic growth on the table by ignoring key parts of our community.
Len Ladero, the economist at the University of Rhode Island, often talks about developing in-house due diligence, as opposed to going out to consultants. And often consultants are told, this is the conclusion we want, figure out how we get there. I may be exaggerating. Ladero thinks if there are in-house experts who can do that due diligence, it would be more efficient and probably be more economical.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with Professor Ladero. In fact, I've spoken with him. I've spoken with Professor Tibaldi over at Bryant on economic development issues, Professor Mazzi at URI. we have local talent. We have 12 universities, including an Ivy League institution, that are all have a variety of skill sets. You know, when I went to look for an expert on operational engineering to help us figure out how to run better polling places, something that was not under my jurisdiction, it's the Board of Elections. I was just trying to help them out. You know, I called the engineering dean at the University of Rhode Island, and Dean Wright put me in touch with a young professor there who actually has now become an expert on polling place operations because of the work that she did in Rhode Island. And we got her, you know, there was a national funder that was interested in helping support her research. We should be doing that kind of work here in our state. And by the way, I have to agree, consultants, part of the problem with consultants is that they come in and you pay them 5 times more than what you pay state workers who actually know stuff. And then they interview the state workers, but the state workers don't get paid, you know, a fraction of what the consultants get paid. And in the end, you know, people are resentful about the results. So, you know, I use consultants every now and then when it's an expertise, or I should say a subcontractor, when it's an expertise that absolutely I'm not going to grow in my office, like programmers, like it's hard for us to grow that. But I believe very strongly that we have the people already here on the ground, that if we listen to them and we empower them to make a change, we'll bring the change about.
Nellie, talk to us a little bit about climate change, the threat that climate change poses to Rhode Island. Newport has a transportation plan that looks out at the future and identifies climate change as a real threat. And we know that. We know that from Superstorm Sandy and other events. How do we address that? And
Yeah.
do we have the will to do that?
Absolutely. Well, only if we have the right governor in place will we have the will. I am excited to come into the governor's office at this moment. I've been appalled over the lack of action over the last two years under our current governor. I mean, he was handed a memo by the environmental community that basically gave him a work plan, and he completely ignored it. I am going to be the governor that within the first 100 days, I am going to be sitting down with a variety of state agencies and environmental partners to get going on addressing climate change. We have to absolutely do this. And we have to do it in a different way. You can't have the Department of Transportation siloed away from, you know, RIPTA, siloed away from DEM. They all have to work together. There's a interagency body called the EC4 that brings everybody together. That hasn't had any adequate staffing or really focus from the governor's office. I am committing to sit down at every one of those meetings for the whole first year, so that people get going and start addressing the climate change needs of our state. We know what has to be done. It's just a matter of getting the governor's office to actually pay attention to it and invest in it. You know, it's easy to sign bills. In this case, we did have a look at by the legislature, but there's been no executive branch action.
Why do we have to replace the current governor?
Because I can do a much better job.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. But let me ask a different question as well, because one of the things that he's been touting is the elimination of the car tax, which we know didn't initiate with him at all and came out of the legislature. But I've wondered with the car tax and the elimination of the car tax that, in fact, this is a tax collected by the cities and towns, and the revenues from that go into the cities and towns. Now, the state, in eliminating the car tax, has said that it will replace those funds that are lost. How long can that happen? We're not going to have a windfall of money like we have now. Can that be sustainable?
I think it can be. The car tax is very regressive. It really hits low-income people much harder than upper-income people. And so I'm in favor of the car tax. Although I am also share your opinion that really the governor didn't really do much other than, included it in this budget. I mean, that was really something that was fought by the legislature in this case. And I don't like taking credit for things that other people have done. I believe very strongly in sharing and being honest about, what I did and when I did it. Or giving credit where credit is due. But really the way we are able to maintain the fiscal promises of eliminating the car tax to the cities and towns is by running the state much more efficiently with clear accountability that really maximizes our dollars. I did it as Secretary of State. The Secretary of State's office runs very much on its same budget, but does a lot more with those dollars. And so that's what we need. We need a governor that knows how to run the executive branch, is able to modernize the executive branch. We have processes in place. They're so redundant and so hard on small businesses in the state. I find it really interesting that small business owners and sometimes they're lawyers or they're CPAs will say to me, Nellie, I love your office. And I'll say, thank you. We've done that with 15, 20, 30-year state employees that are all members of a labor union. And I say that because it can happen, but you have to have the right leadership in place to be able to do that. And by the way,
go ahead.
1 second. Going back to the car tax, though, what I do want to see happen is a move over to away from fossil fuels for cars, of course, and to be able to maximize and increase the availability of public transit. I would love to be able to offer free bus transit over a series of years, implement that and make sure that people have other avenues to getting to and from work or wherever they're going. We have to move away from the fossil fuel economy. I'm committed to that. It's why environmental groups like Clean Water Action and Climate Action Rhode Island have both endorsed me in my race for governor.
You mentioned efficiencies, and one of the things that I've ever since coming to Rhode Island back in 1812 or whenever it was, it seemed to me that from community to community there are incredible redundancies in some of the functions of government. I always remember when I worked in the Journal's Greenville office and going out to Gloucester, where there was this state police barracks, and right across the street was the Gloucester Police Department, where they had two police officers. Why they couldn't all be in the same building, why in fact state police couldn't cover the town of Gloucester, always baffled me. And there are other areas where it looks to me that there can be consolidation of services. Is that something that we ought to pursue?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I just did it in my office with regards to, we had, two positions in accounts payable and accounts receivable. And there was two different individuals. They both decided to retire at the same time. It gave us the perfect moment to say, you know what? We can do that probably with just one person, thanks to the advances of technology. And then you can repurpose that FTE, or, if you don't need it, you don't need it. But in our case, we repurposed it into other areas that we needed more. So that kind of reorganization of government is key. And we don't do it in government. Historically, we have allowed government to layer up, right? So, oh, this is a great idea. Oh, great. So then let's layer it up again with another idea. And then let's layer. And nobody goes back and says, well, wow, that doesn't make sense anymore. Letters of good standing. When I came in as Secretary of State, letters of good standing were horrible. It was a black hole. And I got to work with the Department of Taxation and the Governor Raimondo. And we agreed on legislation. We passed it. And that has streamlined the process of letters for good standing. So that now maybe for people who don't understand that, maybe you could explain it a little bit. Sure. A letter of good standing. So a lot of times in financial situations, or when you're closing a business or merging a business, you need a letter that says that you're in good standing with the Secretary of State's office and you're in good standing with taxation. And so that becomes a very important document. And what was happening is, before I was Secretary of State, was people would apply for these. They have a financial transaction that's pending, and nobody in government can say when that document will be released. And so what we did was not just streamline the processes for that, but we also made it so that instead of having 6 different reasons why you need a letter of good standing, you only needed 4, for example, or 3. So, and I'm making those numbers up just so you know. It's been a while since I've looked at that topic, but basically we streamlined the reasons why you would need it in the law.
My recollection that in the past it used to take weeks before a letter of good standing would be issued in Rhode Island, when in some neighboring states it takes a matter of a day or 2.
For hours, I mean, in some places. So yeah, no, so we did that. And I'm proud, you know, one of the best things about doing all these efficiencies in government is that my phone doesn't ring. It doesn't. Nobody calls me to ask me to do something for them because, you know, the process works. People get what they need by going to the counter, going online, simplifying our website so that people can find the information they need is key. But you need a governor that really cares about this to be able to do it in the rest of state government. And so that's what I'm looking forward to do.
I have a couple more questions. One, your opponents, the governor and Helena Foulkes in particular, and also Ashley Callis on the Republican side, have touted how much money they have to be able to put into the campaign. Are you in a position where you can, where you're financially able to take this through the stretch run, and if successful, into the general election?
Absolutely. We're going for, you know, everything we can on this primary because it's a tough battle. But yeah, no, I am not the best funded out of those 3. I'll be number 4, right? Like, you know, I've been a community leader and a public servant and been really working for people my whole life. So I don't have the ability to self-fund. I'm also a working mom. I've got 3 kids. I'm still getting through school and college. And so, yeah, no, you're not going to see me putting in millions of dollars like some of my opponents have. But that's okay because you know what I do have? I have donors in every single one of the 39 cities and towns that have seen my work, that are encouraging me with their contributions to my campaign. And each one of those people is talking to their family and friends. And so, yeah, I can't buy $3 million worth of commercials, but I've got people on the ground that say, I know Nellie. You might have seen the ad, right? I know Nellie. People know me. They know the work that I've done. They know that I care deeply about Rhode Island and about making government work for people, and that's what I'm going to do as governor.
And if my memory is correct, when you first ran for Secretary of State, you ran unendorsed and underfunded.
That is correct. And I'm doing this again.
So one last question, and I know you've got to go momentarily. My last question is, what one thing you would like voters to know about you that you don't think they know?
Wow. You know, the people closest to me know this, but maybe, you know, because people are now tuning in into the election cycle, they may not know that really my passion really is making government work well. It's not just a talking point. It is something that I believe into my core. It's why I've always, from the time when I got here 30 years ago, I've been engaged in our community, trying to get people to participate civically. I believe in our government, and I believe in our government being able to support each other to make sure that we have a better future, that is the process through which we do it. And our democracy is supposed to support that as well. And so I'm excited about this possibility of being Rhode Island's next governor and showing the country that Rhode Island is really a leader in so many ways. That to me is why I'm running.
Anything you'd like to add?
No, just, you know, go to vote.ri.gov. If you have any questions about how to vote, you've got, you know, these 3 different ways. You can vote by mail, or you can vote early in person, or you can vote on the actual day. Don't get left behind. This is a historic opportunity that we have in our state to change the future, to really make it so that we have a better Rhode Island. And whether your candidate wins or loses, You want to be a part of things. It's the only way things change. And I hope that I can earn your vote because I'm excited to go ahead and go and work for you.
Nellie Gorbea, thank you very much. Good luck in these last couple of weeks leading up to the election, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you again.
Thanks, Frank. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nellie.
Bye, Ryan. Thanks.
You are welcome. And Mr. Prosnitz, that is Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea, who is
just to add, and I didn't want to take it up with in time, but Nellie Gorbea is one of 4 of the 5 gubernatorial candidates who have had some of their education at an Ivy League school. The governor went to has a certificate or a master's degree from Harvard. Helena Foulkes is out of Harvard. Matt Brown, I'm not sure whether it is Yale or Harvard. And Nellie actually got, I believe, her master's in public administration from Princeton University. So all are and Louis Daniel Munoz was a college in Connecticut where, in fact, he earned a degree as a medical doctor. So these are 4 very well educated people, and we've not had a campaign like this since I can remember.
That's it. It's the primary is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
That's correct.
So get out, make your voice heard. I'm sure as Secretary of State, she would say as many people as possible voting is the best outcome for everybody.
Yeah. But she'd prefer that people only vote once.
That's it. That's it. All right, Mr. Prosnitz.
Ryan, thank you.
Just a reminder, we have invited all of the candidates, Democratic. Once we get past the primary, we'll move on to more of the local races, more of the statewide races where there's Democrat and Republicans. Right now, it's just too big of a lift to try to do every Democratic primary and Republican primary leading up. But once we're past September 13th, we'll dive into some of the general election. And
I urge people to pay attention, read as much as they can about these candidates. Go to their websites. Each one of the Democratic candidates, I believe, have really laid out their plans for a variety of different areas: the economy, education, healthcare, and go and see what they have to say. And vote smart. That's all I ask people to do is vote, but vote smart. Know why you were voting for somebody, and that somebody represents at least your vision of where we ought to be going. It's incredibly important for people to get out and vote.
He is Frank Prosnitz, the best grandpa. I am Ryan Belmore.
That's again what my granddaughter tells me.
NellieGorbea.com is where you can find out more information. So far, we have interviewed Nellie. We have interviewed Helena Foulkes.
And Louis Daniel Munoz.
You can find all those interviews up on WhatsUpNewp.com. Thanks for watching. We'll be back soon here with another edition as we hear from more campaigns. If you are on a campaign or work for a campaign.
We'll actually be back on Wednesday with Colleen Germain, superintendent of schools in Newport. Very critical vote coming up in November relative to the schools.
That's it. All right, Mr. Prosnitz, we'll talk to you next time.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks for watching.